Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. This evening I finished Disinherited by Dale Van Every. It came up in a video that I posted 2 days ago, my most disliked video ever. And now that I've finished it, I thought I should report about the book a little bit. It's something that I first heard about from booktuber Steve Donahue. He had a video about 100 nonfiction books that you should read. You can probably find it, and if not, I believe when I first hauled this, I did a book haul video and linked to it in that. The book is brilliant, but you have to beware that it has a very narrow focus. So the topic of the book is the removal of the Native American population from their lands east of the Mississippi. So it covers that process from the beginning of settler colonialism and through about 1840. So the Indian Removal Act was passed 1830, and the final great exodus occurred in 1838. So I hope I said 1830 and not 1930. And the narrow focus of this book is exclusively about the efforts of the white men to push the Native Americans out. It's not any kind of an ethnographic study of Native Americans. It's not a history of Native Americans. It's exclusively about the process of the eviction. So a good feature of it is that there's a lot of primary source documentation reported. He really takes you into the weeds and gives you a close-up view every step of the way. Going to the latter end, I think in 1838, when President Martin Van Buren is reporting to Congress that happily the Indian removal project is complete. They have all been removed from territories east of the Mississippi. Of course, the Trail of Tears was ongoing at that juncture. Van Every quotes a letter that was published in a newspaper of a traveler from Maine who came across the caravan, or whatever you use to describe the large flow of Native Americans, and gives his account of the wretched conditions in which people were living and dying, who, as I say, had not yet made it to their quote-unquote promised lands at the time that Martin Van Buren was boasting to Congress. So the whole book is very well documented. It's the kind of book that you cannot read without becoming infuriated, I would suppose. Well, let me read you a little bit. When he heard of the afflictions to which the distant Indians were being subjected, the average American was moved by his normal goodwill to sympathy and indignation. But he was responding to an idea, not a conviction. Had he been an inhabitant of an Indian border area, he would have reacted as the Georgians were reacting. Only in certain religious and intellectual circles did the moral response to removal approach an enduring conviction. It often fell short even there, as was evidenced by the flare of active race prejudice ignited among the God-fearing people of Cornwall by the Boudinot Gold marriage. The lesson had been well read by practical politicians and party managers. It had been made clear to their shrewd judgment that it was safe for a congressman or senator to vote for removal whenever this seemed a service to the larger aims of his party. His constituents might compose righteous memorials and hold mass meetings of vociferous protest, but it was not an issue on which they were very likely ever to turn him out of office. We can see a lot of correspondences in the politics today. The one area where I would suppose the narrative weakens is when Van Every goes a little further afield. And so here he gives a little foreshadowing of events past the purview of this book, which, as I say, ends around 1840. In their despair, Indians had sought consolation and resort to the supernatural. Native prophets, such as those who had inspired the followers of Pontiac and Tecumseh, had emerged again and again to preach the doctrine of original blessedness. They had exhorted Indians to eschew every compromise with white influence, especially by forswearing the use of white tools, weapons, and alcohol, so that by a return to their ancient purity, they might regain the strength to regain their former freedoms. These movements had been frustrated by their adherents' realization that obedience left Indians even more defenseless than before. By the time of the removal, Indians were increasingly addicted to more extravagant religious fantasies. A favorite conceit intermittently erupting for generation after generation until its final resurgence as the ghost dance excitement among the Plains Indians in the late 1880s envisioned the evocation by appropriate prayers, dances, and rites of the innumerable spirits of all Indian dead who would return to earth as a mighty host capable of expelling the white invaders and thus restoring the land of peace and plenty Indians had once enjoyed. So in the case of that paragraph, I would say that one is better off resorting to a book of Native American history. And so I noticed when I was flipping through this book that there's, I believe, an entire chapter devoted to that subject. And I would bet that this source is more reliable when it comes to that. Now, if you want to know the machinations of the white people, Dale Van Every is indubitably a marvelous source, an incomparable source, I would hazard. Now, I said in my video that I am not going to tackle this as yet because with the finishing of Van Every, I'm going to start on my recent acquisition of the Lumumba plot, and we'll see where that takes me. Thank you for stopping by my channel.